At 70 years old, roughly half of people can no longer stand on one leg for 10 seconds. Not because they're sick, not because anything dramatic has happened. The ability simply slipped away, a little at a time, while no one was watching, and most of them have no idea it's gone. Here's what makes that worth your attention. A team of researchers followed more than 1,700 older adults and found that the people who couldn't pass that simple 10-second test were far more likely to die over the years that followed, even after accounting for their age, their weight, and their heart conditions. One small ability turned out to say something much larger about the whole body, and balance is only one of them. There are a handful of plain, everyday things you do without thinking or things you've quietly stopped doing, that the research keeps linking to how well and how long a person ages. Not expensive scans, not lab work, simple movements you can check at your own kitchen table. So today I want to walk you through 7 of them. 7 things that the healthiest people over 70 can still do, and exactly what each one is telling you about what's happening inside. Before we go any further, let me be straight with you about who's talking. I'm not a doctor, and this isn't medical advice. I read the research, the actual published studies, and I translate it into plain language, because most of these findings never make it out of the journals and into a normal 12-minute appointment. So think of this as education, not a diagnosis and not a prescription. Nothing here replaces your own doctor, and before you change anything about how you move, eat, or take your medicine, you talk it over with them first. I'll remind you of that again, because it matters. What I can promise you is this. By the end, you'll understand 7 simple abilities, why each one quietly predicts how your body is holding up, and the small, doable steps the research suggests for protecting or rebuilding. Every single one. Not someday, starting tonight. And one gentle note as we begin. If you can't do all 7 yet, you have not failed at anything. These are not pass or fail judgments on your worth. They're gauges. Simple readouts of an engine you can't see directly, and gauges can be moved. Now, I've ordered these 7 from the most common to the rarest, counting down to number 1, which is the 10-second balance test I opened with. I put it last on purpose. It takes no equipment, it's over in 10 seconds, and yet by age 70, only about half of people can still do it, and by the early 80s, fewer than 1 in 10. If you can hold it, you're in genuinely uncommon company. So stay with me. When we reach number 1, I'll walk you through exactly how to test it safely and how to train it back if it's faded. So here's the thing, almost no one explains, and once you see it, the whole list makes sense. Every one of these abilities looks simple on the outside. Stand up, walk, balance. But under the surface, each one is a small symphony. To rise from a chair, your brain has to send a clear signal. Your nerves have to carry it without delay. Your muscles have to answer with real force. Your heart and lungs have to deliver fuel, and your inner ear has to keep you upright the whole time. When all of that works together smoothly, the movement feels effortless. You don't even notice it. That's the key idea. The movement is easy only because the machinery underneath is healthy. So when one of these everyday abilities starts to slip, it's rarely about that one movement. It's a sign that something deeper, your muscle, your nerves, your balance system, your heart and lung fitness, has lost a little of its reserve. Reserve is the word I want you to hold on to. Think of it like a savings account your body keeps in each of its systems. When you're young, the accounts are full, and you can afford to lose a little without noticing. As the decades pass, the balances quietly draw down, and these 7 tests are simply quick ways to check how much you've still got in each account. And here's the part that should give you hope. Unlike most savings accounts, you can pay back into these. Muscle responds to demand at any age. Balance can be retrained. Fitness can be rebuilt. The body is remarkably willing to restore what you ask it to keep. So as we go through each one, I'm not just going to tell you what it means. I'm going to tell you how to put a deposit back in. Number 7 is walking and holding a real conversation at the same time, without your feet slowing down or your words trailing off. It sounds trivial. It isn't. We assume walking is automatic, but in older adults, it quietly leans on the brain's executive function. That's just a name for the planning and multitasking part of your mind. When you add a mental task on top, like talking or doing sums, your brain has to split its attention between thinking and moving. A healthy brain and body connection handles both at once without missing a step. When that connection is fraying, something has to give. Usually the feet slow down or the sentence stops. Picture a computer with plenty of memory running two programs at once with no lag. When the memory runs low, everything starts to stutter. In a study published in the journal JAMA Neurology in 2017, researchers tracked older adults who already had mild memory changes, and the ones whose walking slowed the most when they were given a mental task were several times more likely to progress to dementia over the next few years. I want to be careful with that. It was measured in people already showing memory changes, and it's a marker, not a cause. Slowing down when you talk does not mean you are getting dementia. But the encouraging flip side is real. The ability to move and think at the same time reflects a brain and body still well connected. So keep asking both to work together. Walk with a friend and actually talk. Take a route with a few turns to think about. Walk while you name things in a category in your head. And if you've noticed your walking changing in general, not just during a conversation, that's worth mentioning to your doctor. That connection between brain and body runs through everything else on this list, starting with something you hold in your hands. Number 6 is carrying your own groceries in from the car in one trip or opening a stubborn jar without handing it to someone else. This is a window into your strength across your whole body. Here's why your hands tell on the rest of you. Grip strength is a stand-in for total body muscle because hands rarely weaken alone. When grip fades, it usually reflects muscle being lost all over, a process called sarcopenia, which is simply the medical word for the slow loss of muscle that comes with age and sitting still. And muscle isn't only for lifting. It steadies your joints, it cushions you in a fall, and it even helps your body manage blood sugar. Think of grip like the number on a bathroom scale. One quick reading that reflects a much bigger total underneath. In the large international study called PURAR, published in The Lancet in 2015 and following nearly 140,000 people, every roughly 11-pound drop in grip strength was associated with about a 16% higher risk of dying over the follow-up. Grip even predicted death more strongly than blood pressure did. That's an association. It doesn't prove weak hands themselves cause harm, but the signal was remarkably consistent across countries. The way you pay back into this account is resistance, asking your muscles to push or pull against something a few times a week. Carry the groceries on purpose. Squeeze a soft ball while you watch television. Use light weights or stretchy resistance bands. And give your muscles the raw material to rebuild by getting some protein at each meal. If you have heart or joint concerns, check with your doctor before you start. Strong muscles need a strong engine to fuel them, which brings us to your stairs. Number 5 is climbing a couple of flights of stairs at a steady pace without stopping halfway to catch your breath. Don't wave this one off, because it reads the health of your heart and lungs more honestly than almost anything you can do at home. Climbing stairs forces your heart, lungs, and circulation to deliver oxygen quickly to working muscles. That capacity has a name, cardiorespiratory fitness, which is just a long way of saying how well your heart and lung system supplies your body when you push it. The fitter that system, the more reserve you carry for everything else you do. This is the engine of the whole machine, and a flight of stairs is a quick test of how strongly that engine still runs. A landmark study in the New England Journal of Medicine in 2002 found that each one-step improvement in fitness, 1 MET, which is just a standard unit researchers use to measure exercise capacity, was linked to roughly a 12% better chance of survival. Fitness predicted survival more strongly than most of the traditional risk factors. That particular study was done in men, so I'll hold it loosely there. But the broader link between being fitter and living longer shows up in women too. Now, an important line. Being a little winded and needing to slow down is a fitness problem you can work on. But chest pain or pressure, breaking into a cold sweat, or feeling faint when you exert yourself is something else entirely. That is a reason to stop and call emergency services, not to push through. You rebuild this gently. Walk a little faster than usual. Add a small hill. Take the stairs when it's safe in small doses that leave you slightly breathless but still able to talk. If you have a heart condition, clear it with your doctor before you start. The same effort that powers your stairs starts down in your legs, and that's number 4. Number 4 is standing up from a chair 5 times in a row without pushing off with your hands. If you're reaching for the armrests, your body is telling you something. This one tests lower body strength and power, the force in your thighs and hips. Those are the muscles that get you off the toilet, out of the car, and up off the ground. They're also among the first to fade with age and inactivity. And power, strength delivered quickly, fades even faster than raw strength does, which matters because power is exactly what saves you when you stumble. Your legs are the foundation of the house. When the foundation weakens, everything built on top of it becomes less steady. In data from the large European study called SARE, covering more than 40,000 adults over 50, slower times on this 5-stand test were associated with a higher risk of dying. Clinicians often use a simple benchmark here. Taking longer than about 12 seconds to stand 5 times is treated as a flag for low physical function worth looking into. That's an association again, but it's a window worth checking. To pay back in, practice the movement itself. Do sit-to-stands from a sturdy chair, as many as you can manage with good form, building up slowly over weeks. Once that feels easy, hold a light weight against your chest while you do them. Keep a counter beside you for safety. And if your knees or hips hurt, talk to your doctor or a physical therapist before you push it. Strong legs are meant to carry you somewhere, and how fast they do is number 3. Number 3 is walking at a brisk, purposeful pace. The way you'd move if you were running a little late, not a slow stroll. Your everyday walking speed is one of the most studied signals in all of aging research. The reason is that walking speed sums up the whole body in a single number. It needs muscle, balance, nerves, heart, lungs, and coordination all pulling together. That's why some doctors call it the 6th vital sign. When the whole system is healthy, you naturally move with pace. When something is quietly draining the reserve, your speed drops, often before you've consciously noticed. If the other abilities are individual gauges, walking speed is the master gauge on the dashboard, the one reading that reflects how all the others are doing. A pooled analysis published in JAMA in 2011, which combined 9 studies and nearly 35,000 older adults, found that faster walking speed was consistently linked to longer survival. People who walked at about 1.2 meters per second or faster, roughly a brisk pace, tended toward what the researchers called exceptional life expectancy for their age. And it was especially telling after age 75. It's an association, but an unusually consistent one across every group they looked at. You train speed by occasionally walking faster than is comfortable. Short bursts of brisk walking folded into your normal walk, then back to easy. Pumping your arms helps your legs keep up. Even adding a little pace to part of one daily walk counts. As always, build it up gradually, and check with your doctor first if you're unsteady or have heart concerns. Now we cross over from the things most people your age can still do into the 2 that truly separate the healthiest. Number 2 asks your whole body to work as one. Number 2 is lowering yourself all the way down to the floor and standing back up using as little support as possible. Few things test as much of you at the same time. This is the one I'd least want to see you lose, because it bundles strength, balance, and flexibility into a single movement, and it's tied as closely as anything to staying independent. Getting down and up draws on leg and core strength, balance, flexibility in your hips and knees, and the coordination to put all of it in the right order. It is, in plain terms, the physical skill behind getting up after a fall. And the quiet fear of not being able to get up off the floor is one of the things that slowly shrinks a person's life. If walking speed was one gauge, this is the full system check. Every part has to pass at once. In a study in the European Journal of Preventive Cardiology in 2014, more than 2,000 adults aged 51 to 80 were scored on how much support they needed to sit down on the floor and rise back up. Those who needed the most help, the lowest scorers, had something like a 5 to 6-fold higher risk of dying over the follow-up compared with those who needed none. It's an association, and the scoring is specific. But the size of that gap is what got the whole field's attention. You don't pay back into this by forcing the move itself. You build the pieces. Leg strength from your chair stands, hip and ankle flexibility from gentle daily stretching, and then supervised practice getting down and up next to something sturdy. If you are at all unsteady, do this only with another person there or with a physical therapist guiding you. Please never test it alone on a hard floor, which leaves the one I opened with, the simplest test of all and the rarest to pass. And here we are at number 1, the 10-second balance test. No equipment. 10 seconds. And yet, as I said at the start, roughly half of 70-year-olds can no longer do it, and by the early 80s, fewer than 1 in 10. If you can hold it, you are genuinely uncommon. Standing on one leg is deceptively hard because it asks 3 systems to cooperate in real time. Your inner ear, which is your built-in balance sensor, your eyes, And the position sensors buried in your muscles and joints, the ones that tell your brain where your body is without you looking. All three feed your brain, which makes constant tiny corrections to keep you upright. Add the leg and core strength to hold the posture, and in one move, you've tested your nervous system, your senses, and your muscle together. It's an orchestra. Inner ear, eyes, nerves, and muscle all playing in time. When one instrument falls behind, the whole thing wobbles. That 2022 study in the British Journal of Sports Medicine I mentioned at the start, about 1,700 adults aged 51 to 75, found that those who couldn't hold a 10-second one-legged stance had roughly an 84% higher risk of dying over the next several years, even after accounting for age, weight, and conditions like heart disease and diabetes. The researchers were careful, and so am I. It's observational, the group studied was fairly uniform, and it cannot prove cause. But balance, it turns out, carries real information about the whole body. Now here is how to try it without risking a fall, because this audience is exactly who I do not want stumbling. Stand next to a wall or a sturdy counter within arm's reach of support. Place one foot behind the calf of your other leg. Let your hands rest near the counter, fix your eyes on a spot ahead of you, and see if you can hold for 10 seconds. Keep a hand hovering over that support the entire time. If you wobble, just touch down. That's completely fine. Never do this out in the open with nothing to grab. And the good news is that balance rebuilds quickly with practice. Hold the counter and stand on one leg for a few seconds each day, gradually using less support as you steady. Walk heel to toe along a countertop. Tai Chi, in particular, is very well studied for improving balance in older adults. One caution: if you've been falling or you feel dizzy when you change position, see your doctor before you train this. Dizziness can have causes that are worth checking out on their own. That's the 7. Now let me show you how they tend to show up together in a real life. Consider someone like Ray. And I want to be clear, Ray isn't a patient of mine because I'm not a doctor and I don't have patience. Ray is a composite, the kind of person these studies are describing, put together to show how this actually unfolds. Ray is 73. Nothing is wrong, exactly. But somewhere along the way, he started pressing on his knees to get out of his chair. He began taking the elevator at his daughter's apartment instead of the 2 flights of stairs. When he carried groceries, it was one bag at a time, more trips. None of it felt like a decision. Each small surrender just seemed easier that particular day. Here's what was happening underneath. Every one of those little avoidances let a system draw its reserve down a bit further. Less standing meant weaker legs. Weaker legs meant less walking. Less walking meant a softer heart and lung engine and shakier balance. It feeds on itself. The less you ask of the body, the less it bothers to keep. The turn came when Ray tried the chair test almost by accident and couldn't do 5 without his hands. That bothered him enough that he brought it up at his next checkup. His doctor cleared him to begin, pointed him toward a physical therapist, and he started with the simplest things. Sit-to-stands at the kitchen counter, a daily one-legged stand by the sink, one slightly faster lap around the block. Within a couple of months, the groceries went back to one trip. The stairs stopped feeling like a wall. He wasn't training for anything. He was just making small deposits, every day, back into accounts he hadn't realized were running low. That is the whole point of these 7. They are not a verdict. They're an invitation to notice early while the rebuilding is still easy. So let's pull it together. Why this works and what to actually do tonight. The reason these 7 simple abilities predict so much is that not one of them is really simple. Each quietly tests several systems at once: muscle, nerve, balance, heart, lungs, brain. So when an ability holds up, it's telling you those systems still carry reserve. And when one slips, it's an early signal, long before any diagnosis, that a system has drawn down further than you'd like. That early warning is a gift, because the sooner you catch it, the easier it is to rebuild. Now, the part I promised I would repeat, because it matters more than anything else I've said. I am not your doctor, and none of this is a prescription. Before you start any new exercise, especially if you have a heart condition, joint problems, you've been falling, or you feel dizzy when you stand, talk to your own doctor or a physical therapist first. And when you test the balance and the floor moves, do them near sturdy support, never alone on a hard floor. The goal is to build you up, not to expose you to the very fall we're trying to prevent. And if you ever feel chest pain or pressure, break into a cold sweat, or feel faint with effort, stop and call emergency services. That is not a fitness problem. That is an emergency. With that said, here's a plan simple enough to start tonight. 1. Stand up from a sturdy chair 5 times, hands off if you can. That's your strength deposit. 2. Do a single 10-second one-legged stand at the kitchen counter, a hand hovering over the surface. That's your balance deposit. 3. On your next walk, add 1 minute of brisk pace with your arms pumping. That's your fitness deposit. 4. Carry your own groceries this week, on purpose. And 5. The next time you're with someone, walk and really talk at the same time, and keep your brain and body working as a team. 5 small deposits. Not one of them costs a thing. And every one pays back into a body that, at any age, is still remarkably willing to keep what you ask it to keep. There's one more thing worth saying before we finish. Of these 7, the 2 that fade earliest and most quietly are balance and lower body power. And they're also the 2 that most often go unnoticed until a small stumble becomes a fall. Which raises a question I think every person over 70 deserves a clear answer to. What are the specific early warning signs that your balance is starting to slip? The small, daily clues that show up in how you walk, how you turn, and how you reach. Long before the 10-second test ever fails? That's a fuller conversation than I can do justice to at the end of this one. But hold on to what you have today. 7 abilities, 5 small deposits, and a body still willing to rebuild. Take good care of yourself. You are worth the effort.